All right, guys, welcome to this week's episode of Real Estate Served on the Rocks. I believe episode 5.
I think so. I've been MIA for a few episodes. 2,
you have
3.
Yeah, we've missed you.
Yeah,
we've missed you.
I miss
Episode
being
5.
here.
We had one yesterday or last week, I believe, that we did kind of a highlight of some Big Rock takeaways. And this week we have our first guest on the show, Silk over here.
Welcome.
And we thought it'd be good to bring her on because we're talking about something today that is not the it's not the most, I don't know what you want to say. It's not the sexiest topic in real estate.
It's not, but it's very,
but it's
very
extremely important.
Like
and,
Jake from State Farm.
Yes, exactly. Oh, we should have worn the cat.
If there's a cutout out there,
Jake.
Jake. Yeah,
we should have brought the cutout from Jake.
Shameless plug.
Yeah, we do have a State Farm office, and they have a giant cutout. Next time, maybe we'll bring that in and kind of put them in. But no, so we wanted to talk about it, and I thought one of the best ways to do it is to bring somebody that's been in the industry for a while and can kind of help us talk through some of the common questions that we have, and we'll kind of go over what we're going to give to you guys today, and hopefully you guys gain some value in it. And I've got my partners in crime here. JC is back on the Ozarks, I believe, so hopefully he makes it back.
And again, I mean, we are knowledgeable about insurance, but what better way of getting the information but from an expert? This is what she does.
Boom.
Lives, breathes insurance. So
I
Silk,
hope
if you
I
want
do
to.
more than that. But.
Yes.
outside of her personal life, I don't know
I'm
her
kidding.
well,
Silk
but
is insurance. That is
she is
that is
insurance.
what she is.
She's
I'm the
insurance.
insurance Asian.
Yep, there we go. The insurance agent.
Awesome. I like it.
Hashtag
I like
insurance agent. So Silk, if you want to take a couple minutes and just kind of tell us your story and where you came from, who you work with, why you got into insurance.
Okay. It's not, my story's not very sexy either. Insurance isn't as
It's sexy as it is.
But I got into insurance because my next door neighbor owned an agency and he thought, it might be a good fit for me. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know. Maybe bring some life to insurance.
Right, exactly. Some personality maybe.
You look insurance agency?
Yeah.
Agent, I don't know. Trying to look for a good proper word for not working.
No, it was a good fit. At the time I was transitioning out of it was asset acquisitions and management, and started doing insurance, and
I don't even know
like
what that
it.
means.
Yeah.
It's like collections. Yeah, where we buy and sell debt.
Not only was it not sexy, but it's collections not sexy.
I
at
know.
all.
I went from one unsexy career to another one.
Yeah.
Not killing it over here.
That's awesome. So how long have you been in insurance?
7 years.
Okay.
Since
Nice.
2015.
Beautiful.
So almost 8, yeah.
Nice. Well, welcome. Thank you
Thank
for taking the time out and joining us on this, kind of irreverent podcast that we have going on.
And who's your company?
So I am independent, but
Okay.
I'm working under the umbrella of Colorado Insurance. So
Okay.
we're part of PCF, which is one of the largest aggregates out there. So being independent, it's nice because then I don't have any specific allegiance to any of the companies I write for. I have about 24, so I'm licensed in Colorado and Arizona. So between the two states,
Okay.
You have allegiance to your client, and that's it, not
Yes.
the company.
I love
There
it.
we go.
That is
That's
exactly
Yep.
it.
That's where you get the best results. So sweet. Well, welcome. Hopefully,
I appreciate it. Thank
hopefully
you
have
guys.
some fun with us today, and hopefully you guys watching get some good information out of it. We're excited, and as always, I mean, it's real estate served on the rocks, right? So your initiation, this is what we do: is we taste bourbon, and today's bourbon is actually 80 Law's 4-grain straight bourbon whiskey, brought to us by Silk, actually. So she's the one that brought this to us, and we're gonna try it today. And as always, what we'll do is we'll try it. We'll give our initial thoughts. We'll go through the podcast, and at the end, we'll give our bourbon review, right? And for the third week in a row, I will not mess this up, but we will rate it between 1 rock and 10 rocks. 10 rocks being the worst, 1 rock being the best.
How do you mess that up?
That's a
Scale of 1
great
to 10.
question. I think the first time I messed it up is we started the episode with some bourbon, but like an hour beforehand. So by the time I got to the numbers thing, it was a little weird.
Oh, you forgot which direction.
But yeah,
you're supposed to go.
I'm most used to like 1 is the worst, 10 is the best. So I was like,
Got it.
this is an 8 rock bourbon. And they're like, yeah, so Jameson, that last episode, you said you really liked it, but you rated it terribly. So I apologize to you
And
guys.
again, it's
Okay.
a good bourbon is neat, no rocks.
Yep. That's kind of the premise.
If you need a little
Oh.
more,
watered
you add
down.
more rocks. Let
Yep.
it, water down a little bit. It's harsh. I mean, good bourbon.
Oh, that's a fun fact.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Exactly.
That's kind of
That's kind of what our preference is as far as rating. So A couple things about C.L.U.E. If you guys are from Colorado, C.L.U.E. is a distillery located here off of South Tacoma Street near downtown Denver. And it's got a couple of interesting things. So the first thing is C.L.U.E. was the first Colorado distillery that distilled bottled and bonded bourbon, right? So, Oscar, what's bottled and bonded mean?
Bottled and bonded. So back in the day, people were spitting in a bottle and making it look like bourbon is water and tobacco spit, and it was they were getting in trouble for that. And also high proof stuff. I mean, people were going blind. I mean, there was no regulation, right? So the U.S. government said, hey, we need to regulate this. People are getting sick. It's just not fair. Bottle and bond.
People are walking around blind after walking out of a saloon. You're
right.
2 o'clock in the afternoon.
That's the short of it. So there's a few. Sorry, my phone's. I put it on silent. It's just vibrating and just throwing me off.
It's like this man in the movie theater. You put your phone on silent.
It's on focus too, and it's still going. I don't understand. Well, anyway, so there's rules and regulations on how to bottle certain bourbon, and this follows the bottle and bond regulations.
Yep. So basically, it has to be distilled at a single distiller.
Mm-hmm.
It's got to be distilled within a certain season. So they distill bourbons within a season, within a single season, and it has to be actually stored in a federally bonded warehouse. That's where it has to be barreled, and it has to be barrel aged for 4 years. Minimum. And when it's distilled at 50% alcohol by volume, so about 100 proof, which makes for a very strong, very good whiskey. According to C.L.U.E., we should be getting some hints of sweet tobacco, maybe some hints of vanilla. So I'm excited to try it. Have you had C.L.U.E. before?
I have. I've had a few of their bottles. I like it.
Okay.
I was talking to them earlier. It was gifted to me.
Yeah.
Bottle one, barrel one of their corn. That one was a little much.
Little much.
That was full bodied in your face, but for the most part, Laws it's good and it's local.
Have you had it?
It's local. It's great.
I just now.
Beautiful.
We had a little sip before. We're gonna pour another one.
I mean,
just traditionally, I'm almost done.
Oscar needs another one, so
yeah,
we'll
it's,
go
you know,
ahead
first
and
thing
top
in the
him off.
morning.
And we'll cheers it here in a little bit. Taste it, guys, and I want to get your initial thoughts. So, there you go, Mr. Oscar.
Thank you, sir.
No problem.
And it is 50%, which is it's roughly 95 proof. I think we generally like our bourbons a little higher up, 92 proof plus. And this,
well, Oscar will make an old fashioned out of anything. So.
I will make an old fashioned out of anything. That's good. I won't make an old fashioned out of sorry Jack Daniels, but your regular stuff
Yeah,
that belongs in Coke.
We'll see.
But good bourbon, I will make an old fashioned out of it. That's who I am.
Yeah. All right, well, let's cheers. Let's try
Cheers.
it and see what you guys think.
Cheers. Woo.
So right off,
Thoughts?
I'm telling you guys, I will turn into looking like you guys. Put hair in my chest, hair in my face if I come.
we were all clean cut before we started this podcast.
And so,
I didn't have a beard 3 days ago.
So up front, I think it's really clean when it comes in. Towards the end, it kind of numbs your tongue out, but it's every bourbon.
Is that what it's supposed to do?
Well, the first drink's always going to be unleaded gas. It's fire. You're supposed to take another drink.
I don't know what Oscar's drinking with unleaded gas, but
Well, that
doesn't sound safe.
it's always gonna be harsh up front, and then you take a second sip, and then you start tasting what the bourbon's supposed to be like.
I like the way it smells.
For me, it's
Yes.
a little bit peppery.
Yeah, I can get that a little bit.
You know.
Agreed.
And it does flatten out towards the end.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really have that burn, at least for me.
Silk, thoughts?
Thoughts? Well, when you first opened it, I said I thought it smelled like vanilla.
Yeah.
Vanilla. I'm not a bourbon drinker, so I'm not sure. I mean, it's good. I could sip on this. For
Normally,
sure.
if a non-bourbon drinker says that they can sip on bourbon,
It's
a
good.
bourbon.
Mhm.
I mean,
that's a
I'm
good
holding
litmus
it
test,
and I'm
I
ready
think.
to take another sip. So
Yep. See? Beautiful. See? Silk belongs.
Yeah.
Should have had you on the 4 other episodes. Now we know.
Yep.
Awesome, guys. Well,
Invite
we'll
me back. 6 episodes from now, and I'll
we'll just do
come
a
with my
refresh.
beer.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll keep sipping on it during the podcast. You guys at home, obviously, welcome to join us if you're on bourbon. And as always, let us know suggestion-wise if you guys have something that you want us to try. Love to hear your suggestions. So to give you guys a quick overview of what we're going to go over today, we're going to go over homeowners insurance and its importance, both for the home buyers and the home sellers. We're going to take a look at some statistics around claims that we've seen in some relevant areas. Hurricane Ian, the Superior fires up in
Fires, big topic here in Colorado.
Yep, exactly. We're going to look at a little bit with the difference between insurance brokers and larger companies.
Which are
because we do
agents.
have a broker here to kind of help us kind of navigate that from a buyer standpoint. And then from there, we'll take a look at some tools that buyers can use when they're looking at purchasing a home. Some things that you may not normally see or even think about doing when you're looking at a home.
Questions
Yep,
to ask.
questions to ask. Yep. And then we'll talk a little bit about what influences pricing, right? Because we all know that we get those bills and all of a sudden it's like, wait a second, why did my insurance go up $1,000 a year, so on and so
And
forth.
it's not always bad, guys. It's
Yep.
not always bad. There's a reason behind
Yep.
it.
So we're going to go through all of that and hopefully give you guys kind of a good idea of what home insurance looks like and why it's important and go from there. So to start it off, Silk, why don't you kind of give us your industry viewpoint of why homeowners insurance is such a big deal?
Okay. So to try not to bore you guys, because insurance is not interesting.
Listen, we're
but-
bringing sexy back with insurance.
Oh,
okay?
I mean,
absolutely.
I'm going to try. But why is insurance important? Well, you can't buy the home unless you're going to cash purchase the home. You cannot buy a house without insurance,
Right.
because the loan needs hazard insurance. So with that being said, I was asking you guys earlier, what part of the process do you have your clients get insurance? And you said about 20 days after they go under contract. I mean, to be honest, as real estate agents, to make you guys look like the hero, I would, as you're looking for the house, let's say the last thing you want is you don't want to go take your client to the
Right.
amazing rural home in the middle of nowhere, have them fall in love with it and
Yep.
be like, well, actually, you know what? We're not going to be able to get this home insured, so how about we look at something else?
Yep.
So I
That's a
would
good
say
point.
just even as you're looking, have them get in contact with their insurance agent or start running C.L.U.E reports. Making sure that the home is even insurable is super important.
So that being said, maybe I'm wrong. You sound like you're talking from experience about running into
Oh my gosh. This
a
has
dream
been-
home that may not have been insurable after all.
Not me personally. I mean, this happened. It's actually been happening quite a bit this summer.
Okay.
Where,
Interesting.
yeah, because of the fires, the Boulder fires, insurance companies are putting what's called like a moratorium on certain zip codes where they don't want to even insure homes in certain areas.
That's crazy.
Kind of
Right?
what's happening in Louisiana, right? Or
Yeah.
Florida, hurricanes,
yes.
right? You're like, you shouldn't live
it's
there
so-
anymore. We're not going to
We're
insure
not supposed
anything.
to inhabit.
Yeah, you're not
this
supposed to
area
live there.
of the country.
At
Right.
some point, you got to go just relocate somewhere
Yeah.
where it's not so
Telling
crazy.
my sister that, I'm like,
Yeah, I have family down
Darcy,
in
how
Punta
many,
Gorda,
how many
so
times are you going to get hit by a hurricane until you're like,
Right.
maybe we should move?
Right? I mean, listen, Jordan Poole reference, but if Draymond Green punches me in the face once,
Oh my gosh.
that's all I need to know.
yeah, I'm not going
Right?
to play with
I'm
him
just
anymore.
not going to mess with him
He's
anymore.
not-
It's
he doesn't
fine.
play fun.
Pretty easy, right?
Oh my goodness. No, so because of the fires that took place in Boulder, I think, it was what, 500 million was paid out.
I think that was
For
on
the
the
Boulder.
the conservative. But
Yeah.
they were paid out. I think the claims were over $1 billion,
Yeah.
but they paid out like 500 million, which I mean, yeah. that's
And
crazy.
that goes into another topic,
Yeah.
The whole nother,
yes, I mean,
but,
it's having proper coverage.
Yes, but so the 500 million got paid out.
but what's sad is that even that's what was paid out, like
Yeah,
you said, but
right.
the actual losses were far beyond that.
Yeah.
But they weren't paid because people weren't insured correctly,
Right.
which is so important. So, kind of to touch on what we were talking about earlier about what's the value in insurance. The value is you could save maybe a couple $100s a year,
Sure.
but are you really insured correctly?
Right.
Right.
So when you have a loss, you need to make sure that it's put together.
Well, and it's an interesting point too, because when you talk about the Superior fires, and you talked about the uninsurability of a home in a rural area, potentially if it's too far away from, a firehouse, or if it's a volunteer fire department, like we were discussing beforehand,
Yeah.
like that's a big deal.
And typically, when it's a rural area, half the time they're volunteers.
Yeah.
I mean, you have your
Why is
local
that?
people.
Yeah, I don't know.
They're because they can't staff it, and
They don't have the tax
and
dollars
money
to pay for it.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
don't have the tax dollars to staff
Or
it with firefighters.
Sometimes there is a fire department and people are like, what are you talking about? There's a fire department like 5 miles.
Yeah.
Well, you didn't pay into that.
Right.
This house, this residence right here, your taxes are lower on it for some reason, and it's because you didn't pay into that fire department to respond.
And again, with the 20 days, we give 20 days as a realtor so you can do your due diligence. And it's the deadline. 20 days is the deadline. You have to have insurance by that time. So you do your due diligence in that time to get proper coverage,
Right.
whether bundle it with your cars, do all that stuff. But then it's your asset. You need to cover it unless you're buying it cash. And even if you buy it cash, I mean, if you rather pay an extra $100 a month, or when it burns down, you're out $600,000, $1 million, whatever it's going to cost you.
Well, and so here's something important to think about too is people, since the Boulder fires, they've called me and they said, am I underinsured? I see that the reconstruction cost is $500,000. My home is valued at $800,000.
Mm-hmm.
So the reconstruction cost is one thing. The value of the home is another. So when we look at the fires, the land is still going to be there, right?
Right.
Even though the fire
Yeah,
came
you don't
through.
insure the land, just the structure.
There you go. Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
So you should be, as an agent, I provide my clients with a reconstruction cost estimator. So it shows the square footage, the type of foundation it's built on, blah, 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 blah. And then it spits out a number. It says, okay, this is what we think it's going to cost to rebuild.
Right.
Now I endorse it for above and beyond that. So I have some companies that will do uncapped. And right now, that is my recommendation to everyone because of the, because of COVID,
Mm-hmm.
the cost of materials went up, the cost
Right.
of labor went up. So the only way that you can be guaranteed replacement is to actually get a policy that guarantees replacement.
So that being said, and I'm glad you brought that up, right? So a couple of things to touch on. So replacement versus market value. A lot of people don't quite understand what the difference is.
That is correct.
Right.
Yes.
So the replacement value, and as Silk alluded to, here's the things that replacement value covers, right?
Well, and a good rule of thumb, and correct me if I'm wrong, 80% of whatever it's appraised or purchase price is probably where you're going to do the replacement rule of thumb, and then you do an exact valuation, right?
So I
20% should be the land.
I personally don't do it that way, but
Okay.
that's probably a good way to look at it.
It's a good rule of thumb, yeah.
Yeah.
If you're a buyer, right, and you're trying to shop insurances and just seeing, because they'll go out and you'll get the replacement cost. If you want to do a quick calculation of where does this look at versus what I'm calculating for my house, the 80% rules
I mean,
should be
right?
covered.
Yes.
As I don't know, you guys probably work with a team. You probably have like a lender, like a inspector, an so your team should be there to support you through this entire process. And you could always
100%.
just send that to your team and say, hey, insurance agent, what do you think the rate's going to be? Is this home insurable? And pull the C.L.U.E before you put in an offer. Because if there's like...
And what's C.L.U.E? What's a
okay.
C.L.U.E report?
A C.L.U.E is like a Carfax for homes.
Okay.
Right? So it's going to tell you about all the losses that happen on that residence.
Yep.
And this is actually kind of good for you guys to know. Because
There's some
I think
states
there's-
that require real estate agents to pull those. Colorado's not one.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Well,
I think
I
it's
mean-
in some of the higher
Texas.
state areas. Yep.
So it might help you guys during negotiations because you guys have like a seller's disclosure that is
Correct.
supposed to say like, we put on a new roof in this year, we did this. Well, if I pull a C.L.U.E and I give it to you and I'm like, all right, here you go, here, Jamison, your client's buying a home that had 3 water claims. They never put it on the seller's disclosure. Now you can go back and
Yes.
say, hey.
Which is a very important distinction because we know, and you've ran into it, I've ran into it, sometimes the seller's disclosure isn't 100% truthful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or they
There's-
forget.
Or they forget.
And it's
there's a gray
They
area.
it's in
They
good
forget.
faith.
Yep.
Seller's property disclosure is good
Yeah.
faith that they remember what's going on.
Yep.
And we may not do a C.L.U.E report, but like you said, as a team, shout out to our friend Chris Walters. He actually pulls permits when he does the inspection. What permits were pulled on this
Yep.
home, and then you look at it like, wait a minute, that was not on the seller's property disclosure. There is a flood claim or a permit for the basement or something, and that's a red flag.
Yeah, absolutely.
Due diligence.
Yep, it is. And it's to Silk's point, right? When we talk about why is home insurance important, I'm going to circle back to the Superior fires because we just said $500 million was paid out. The damage itself was above and beyond
Yep.
that. It was in an area that is not in a fire zone, right? I mean, if you guys are familiar with Superior, listening in Colorado, you guys know it's kind of in between Louisville and Boulder, but it's high plains, very flat, not a ton of trees, not insured as you would a mountain home, and yet something terrible happened and wiped out 1,084 homes with $500 million in damage. So when we talk about, things like pulling a C.L.U.E report to making sure that everything that you would expect to see on a home is there, if it matches the seller's disclosure. If you're looking at your guaranteed replacement, right? Another statistic that I ran across in Superior was of the 1,084 homes, only 10% had guaranteed replacement, which meant that most of them were underinsured.
There's not many companies that offer guaranteed replacement.
And then
Yeah.
the endorsements, right? They have definitions. I pulled my policy and
Oh, look at you.
one came up, and it's what's wildfire. It says this means an uncontrolled, rapidly spread fire through woodland, brush, or resident area.
So here's something to think about too. When your, client's going to buy a home, it could be in Lafayette, Boulder, whatever.
Yep.
But let's say the PC class, and this is nothing that you can control, I can control. It's all put through. It's called I think it's an ISO rating, and it's determined by the fire department.
What's a PC class?
That's a protection class.
Okay.
So 1 being the best, 10 being the worst, and obviously if you have a higher PC class, your rate is going to be through the roof.
And that's just saying that your essential emergency responses are.
Yeah. So
farther away
anything
than
that
they should
if it's going to take the fire department more than really 10 minutes, if your house is,
It's toast.
it's no pun intended,
Right.
like burnt toast.
Did I smell burnt?
a
A little bit of burnt
Toasted
toast in
barrel.
here. Yeah.
But it's so here's a good example. I had a client, and she is trying to sell her home, went under contract. 2 weeks before closing, the buyers pulled out. She's like, I don't know what's going on. I can't sell this house. She said, my insurance canceled. They said it's not, they're getting off the policy. Well, probably the reason why her buyers decided not to buy the home is they couldn't get the home insured. Her policy canceled. I finally found her someone to insure her house, and it's in Sedalia, and it's a $13,000 policy. So if you think
That's
about
a
it,
lot of
I mean,
money a
that's
month.
another mortgage payment, right?
Mhm.
Well, it's insane. I mean, you talk about the average cost of homeowners insurance in Colorado is around $2,200 a year.
Yep.
We're talking $13,000. And again,
$200 a month.
if you're
give or
familiar
take.
with where Sedalia is, it's not far removed from civilization. It's essentially
30 minutes
northwest
from
of
Castle Rock?
right?
Yeah.
And 30 minutes south of Lone Tree, Littleton, that whole area. But yeah, something as simple
But
as a PC class goes from $2,000 a year to $13,000 or uninsurable.
So what she didn't realize is that the fire department that's supposed to respond to her home is volunteer. And even that being said, it would still take them about 15 minutes to get to her
So is a
house.
PC class also for, and we don't have a lot of them here, but in central Denver, flat roofs. That's an issue too, correct?
Right now, what's the biggest concern is roofs in general, like the age of them. Anything more than 10 years, these companies are starting to it's like a depreciated value. It's like tires on your car. Once they get so many miles, they're
Right.
like
The
you
road
know,
hazard plan's like, no, there's no
this
more
tire's gonna
36.
blow like
yeah,
tomorrow.
we're not going to cover it.
We're not going to cover
Right.
your roof. And then some companies will just exclude your roof, which is pointless because the most common claim is hail. It's not if you're going to file a hail claim. It's just a matter
If you live in
of
Colorado during the spring, I don't can't tell you how many times I raced out to my driveway, threw all of my stuff out of my garage, and parked my car in the garage because it hails. And
Yep.
I mean, it can happen, and you guys have seen it, right? All the signs start going up in the yards, and hey, free roof inspection, and so on and
Estimates
so forth.
everywhere.
Estimates everywhere.
Oh
Yep.
yeah, those
Yep.
the roofers. And something to touch on too, I wanted to talk to you guys about was these roof warranties.
Yeah.
Save yourself the time. So roof warranty is a way for a roofing company to advertise themselves.
Okay.
So they come out, they say, "Yep, we'll go ahead and we're going to give you a 5-year warranty on this roof."
Is it the same as a roof certification?
Good question. No.
Okay.
So a roof warranty is like, we will warranty this roof for 5 years. So now when the client's like, I want to, after this hailstorm, where's that warranty? They call that roofing company.
Yeah.
The roofing company comes out, yep, you need a new roof. We'll take care of it. Who's your insurance company? Then that's how they get the business, right?
Got it.
And the roof
So-
certification,
Good.
the roofer goes out and says, we will warrant that this roof will be here for 5 more years, right? Something
No, so
around
a
those lines?
warranty is literally nothing. The roof
Right.
cert is for a specific
Time
type of
period,
roof.
correct.
So a class 4 shingle would require a roof cert. So once your client gets the cert, their rate will drop typically about 15 to 20%.
Yeah, I was going to say, so I've ran into a couple times where, and actually one of the clients that I sent you in Bell Mountain, they were asking what the roof certification was because it did end up making a difference on their policy
Yep.
on a monthly basis. And it was $25-$30. But again, when you're buying these homes and you're in areas and you're paying for everything else that's increasing, something as simple as roof certification or upgrading shingles can go a long way.
So that is one of the questions I ask when someone goes under a contract and they come to me to get homeowners insurance. Is I ask, how old is the roof? And if they ever say they don't know, that's a concern.
Yep.
Right.
And then once they tell me, oh, it was replaced in 2017, which is usually the answer for everyone right now because of that huge hailstorm that came through. Then I asked them, is it a class 4 shingle? Because that'll drop their rate.
And what's the classification? Just to clarify, what's a class 4?
It's hail resistive. So it has to be a class 4 to get the discount. And so you just ask the sellers, who'd you go through? Sometimes they don't have it. They don't remember but as long as they have the roofing company, 123 roofing company, whatever the case is, I can even call them and I'll get that cert.
Yeah.
Will the inspector know that whether it's a class 4 or
there's
not?
no
It
way
has
to
to be
look.
the company.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not without the paperwork.
So you can't go up and take a picture and say, does this look like a class 4? No, it has to be that cert. So that's a really good question. That certificate is what you're looking for.
Which, if you're a seller, right, and you're looking at potentially selling your house, and you do a roof replacement, keep a hold of that paperwork because it does make it a lot smoother of a transaction.
Yep.
If I can send an inspector to the house and I've got the roof certification there, I can then take that, I can give it to the buyer's insurance agent, and that entire process, it just eliminates another hurdle.
Not only that, but
we
then
see.
the discounts there,
Correct.
right? Because
Yes.
that's basically what we're getting at is not only is it a good shingle, but it's going to save you some cash.
It's gonna, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. With most companies, it'll save them quite a bit of cash. Yes.
So as you guys are looking at insuring a house, what are some other specific things you guys look for, or maybe some things that would make something uninsurable
yeah.
that they can look for as they're doing the search? And the reason I bring that up is because of the uninsurability and the PC class in Colorado specifically, and it doesn't have to be this exact thing, but this is why my head went there. People are moving to Colorado now to get space, which normally means rural areas, acreage, so on and so forth, which is great. But if it puts you in a position where your house is uninsurable, imagine going under contract and then finding out 20 days later that, oh, I'm too far away, right? So what are some other things that could potentially make a house uninsurable?
The C.L.U.E report, like you guys brought up earlier, have someone run a C.L.U.E. Okay, it does cost money to run a C.L.U.E. It's every time you run a C.L.U.E on an address, it costs the insurance company money. But
It's kind of like a credit report, right? You want to run it. You want to know as much information as possible.
So I had a situation where the client was great client, great insurance score, great credit score. They could buy looking at homes. Well, one of the homes that he fell in love with, the home was uninsurable because of the past owner had one water claim, another water claim, another water claim. So many water claims that the insurance companies were like, okay, what is happening here? Why is this home, there is something triggering this home to constantly have water
issues,
claims, right? So the home was actually uninsurable because of, and it wasn't because of the PC class, being in a fire zone. It was because of the previous owner's C.L.U.E.
Claims.
Well,
claims history.
So 2 questions. Number 1, so does C.L.U.E stand for anything? Like, is it an acronym for something?
Oh
or-
gosh, don't.
I'm
do
just
that.
asking. I'm just
Dang it.
because I used to.
Jameson loves.
I love
you know what?
I love the game as a kid. Okay.
I'm
was always
I'm
the
gonna
one
ask
dude
the tough
with a dagger
questions.
in the library. I want to say.
Yeah.
I'm just curious. Like I hear C.L.U.E all the time. I just didn't know if it had an acronym. If
I'm
we don't
sure
know,
it
we don't
does.
know. I'm sure it does. We have to look it up, guys. Remind us.
Okay.
We'll look it up.
What is
next episode?
a C.L.U.E
What
report?
we're gonna do? Actually, you know what? I've got my research guy that's gonna look it up. For
And
us. So give
the
us a minute.
definition is going to be
The
because that's what we named it.
So
the
here's-
C.L.U.E report.
But let's touch on that, right? Because let's say, for example, that they had water issues, whether it was a leaky water heater, so on and so forth. From a real estate standpoint, on a seller's property disclosure, if something was mitigated, I don't necessarily have to disclose it because it's a fixed problem, right?
Rule of thumb: disclosure.
Correct.
If you know about
Correct.
it, it's better to cover your butt and say
Correct.
this was done at a certain time.
But you are relying on people
Yes.
in good faith to give you that information, right?
Absolutely.
So with a C.L.U.E report, what that allows,
It's not our.
Right.
It's not up to us to do the research for it. It's what the client has disclosed to us.
so if the C.L.U.E report comes back and shows 3 or 4 or 5
Now
different
we know.
claims,
Now we need
now
to
we know,
disclose.
and now there's a potential to either renegotiate,
There you
to
go.
back out of the contract,
There.
to earn this money back. And again, it's a buyer beware state,
So
right? You want to know what
that
you're
is-
moving into.
I have a question for you
Yeah.
guys, if this is okay.
Absolutely.
So
Wait, this is our podcast.
Just don't
We
tell
are-
me
sorry.
what C.L.U.E
I'm just
report
kidding.
is because we don't know apparently
Go
what
for
a
it.
C.L.U.E
No,
report is.
Oh wait, hold on. Breaking news.
Uh-oh.
Let's go with
What-
what a
what's
C.L.U.E
going
report is. Are you guys ready?
Oh, I thought it was a weather report, like a
This
Oh.
is this is from Charlie Sidelli. He's our production manager / Swiss Army knife. It is a comprehensive
acronym.
loss underwriting exchange, which
Woo!
essentially means that it will record any sort of underwritten exchanges, losses, anything filed that allows the insurance company, the insurance agent to look up any of the past claims. Thank you,
Okay.
Charlie.
Charlie
So look at
learned
that.
me something
Thank
today.
you.
Thank you,
Beautiful.
Charlie. He's the
Excellent.
man. CL.U.E. report is an acronym.
All right,
Okay.
now you can ask us the question.
So if someone goes under contract, they put down their earnest money,
Mhm.
okay? And then if the seller disclosure did not disclose a claim that's coming up on the C.L.U.E, can the person back out of the contract and get their earnest money back because it wasn't put on that disclosure?
Absolutely. It's subjective. When you go and do your inspection, it's gonna I've had people, and you're not supposed to do this just because of likings of stuff, but if it's not up to the standard of the buyer and it came up on inspection, they could 100% say we don't want to deal with this.
Yeah. So I think that the answer is twofold, right? And I think you brought this up earlier. We said 20 days to get the property insured and filed with the lender, but you were stating that getting something like this done early, right after we're under contract, allows us, because our inspection period's 7 to 10 days, right?
And we can only use that
And
for
we can
that.
only use that for that.
And you can even use your resources, your team, to say, hey, we're going to go look at this home in the mountains. Can you see what the protection class is?
And it snowballs a
And
little
I-
bit,
and
right? Our dates and deadlines really do. I mean, our inspection, well, it's a visual inspection, and then the insurance, the C.L.U.E report comes back. Well, now it's an issue because it's an insurance issue. Now this was discovered through insurance through the C.L.U.E report. So, we have that out. But then say we fast forward, now the underwriter doesn't like it. And it's something to do with the insurance. Now it's a lending issue, and we have that's typically the back end of our dates and deadlines.
Yep.
It's a
Okay.
couple days before closing, and now we can't close because there's no loan or the terms of it have changed. So it kind of snowballs into all our dates and deadlines. So a C.L.U.E report is absolutely a great thing.
And here's the other thing too, and I'm dealing with this. It's kind of on the same vein, but not. So the seller's property disclosure gets disclosed, right? And usually we set those deadlines. How long? When you usually become required?
5 days
Five
after
days,
going under
right.
contract.
Okay.
So
We try and
quick.
we get them done before.
And again, good faith.
We send
Good
an
faith.
inspector out, so we know what we're looking for. But there's been scenarios where the property disclosure gets disclosed, and then after close, something gets discovered, and if it can be proven that it was a material fact when the seller property disclosure was handed out and it wasn't disclosed to the buyer, now you're in, and this is not our realm, right? So if this is happening to you guys at home, a real estate attorney is what you want to consult. But
Absolutely.
there is a potential that a C.L.U.E report can pull something that was not disclosed on the seller's property disclosure, and that potentially can give the buyer the right to either back out or to consult real estate attorneys and see what their recourse possibility is.
I mean, I've done a lot of estate sales, and on those, special warranty deed means we're not warranting
Correct.
before we knew anything about the property. We've never lived in the property, so their seller's disclosure is a line through it.
Yeah.
We don't know anything about the property. We've never lived in the
Okay.
property either. Investments are a little different, but a family member is now selling it, and they don't know anything about the property.
Yeah.
So buyer beware. That's why get great coverage with insurance, whether it's title and or homeowners, and also have a good inspector.
Yep.
Okay. So this is, I mean, we were talking about value add, just having, a good real estate agent that can guide you through the process, put you in front of the right team, but then also keeping the price down, with the insurance, with the lender. One thing that's
Because you affect the loan. I mean,
Yeah.
you could
So
throw
much.
off our debt to income ratio.
which
I mean,
you guys never hear about because the lender doesn't want to.
Mm-hmm.
and
Well,
it-
you figure what, $2,200 a month or $2,200 a year, right? That's $185.
cheap
a
might
month.
get you in the door in the house, but what is it going to cost you in the long run?
Oh,
great coverage, but
Yep.
affordability.
There's so many times where it's you show people homes that they're already overextending themselves a little bit, and so the best way for a lender to try and keep their DTI under a certain point, they can't cut a lot out, but guess what? The
Insurance.
biggest chunk you can cut
Is the insurance.
is hazard insurance.
Yep.
Can't cut the taxes.
You can't. Yeah, there's nothing you
Interest
can argue.
rates,
No,
insurance, but
Yep.
again, coverage is what we're talking about today.
So here's the thing too: is if something seems too good to be true, oh, this home seems great. Why is the well, there's probably a reason, or this insurance premium seems so amazing. There's the biggest thing to look at too on an insurance policy is it an ACV, which stands for actual cash value,
Okay.
or a replacement cost policy. So an ACV would mean that you're getting the depreciated value of everything, the depreciated value of your roof, the depreciated value of your contents,
Okay.
which is like self-insuring. Why would you ever buy a policy like
Right.
that? Yes, it seems great. It only costs $1,200 a year versus $2,500,
Right.
but you're paying $1,200 to self-insure.
Yep.
The other thing to look at is deductibles.
Okay.
So a deductible is going to, yes, looks great. You're going to save yourself a ton of money, but then you're also self-insuring again, because a deductible is what you pay out as the consumer to the insurance company to get your roof fixed.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a good example, there's companies out there right now that do percent deductibles. So a percent deductible is going to be based off the reconstruction cost of your home, and that's called the coverage A. So if your coverage A is, gosh, I'm bad at math, but let's say it's $500,000
Mm-hmm.
and you have a 2% deductible.
Yep.
Okay, that would make your deductible $10,000? No, please help me.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so if the average cost of a roof is between 12 and 15, you're self-insuring your roof. Why?
And
Right.
is that cheaper a month?
Yeah.
and
right.
then it might bring your
It
premium
might,
down,
but
like-
then do you
yeah.
have 10 grand when in a roof? You might as well just pay the roof out of pocket.
There you go. So you're self-insuring. So there's companies that have 2% deductibles, 1%, and you know, I get clients all the time that are like, oh, but I found another policy here, another quote, and they're saving me $60 a month. And I look and I said, well, you have a 2% deductible.
Right.
No, and they'll, you know, argue, well, it's 2% of what?
Right.
2% of the dwelling.
Right.
Read
So-
the fine
Those
print.
numbers get big.
Read
So-
the fine print.
so
Well,
that being
before
said-
I forget,
Yeah, go for it.
is there a cap on deductible? Can you just make
That
it
is
20,000?
So that's a really good question. It depends on the company. So I have 22 different companies that I write for. Some do have a cap. Well, most of them have a cap.
What's the highest cap
but-
you've seen?
What matters is for the loan. So
Yeah.
the lender can't have a deductible over a certain point, which
Right.
I'm not going to talk on because that's not my
But
area of
no,
expertise.
I've seen that as well. Yeah. The
Okay.
deductible can't exceed a certain percentage of the
Yeah.
loan on the house, because at that point,
I
they're not
mean-
insuring their.
Right. And the reason I asked, and we were talking about this
Yeah.
earlier, is flood insurance. Right.
Oof.
The FEMA map is crazy. Some houses there's no bodies of water, but it does sit in a valley. Blah blah. Wheat Ridge is one of them, and it is expensive if you have to go FHA. And
flood insurance is you can't really shop it. I mean, it
Right.
is
if
what
it's
it is.
FHA, you can't.
Right.
But can you ramp up the deductible for like 20 grand?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And that saves them monthly, correct?
Oh yeah, it'll save them a ton.
And
of
the
money.
chances are, I mean, the FEMA map says in 100 years, there's been 1 or 2 claims, and they keep it there. I mean, if most people sell in 5 years, I mean,
5 to 7 years,
you know, coverage, usually the basement floods only. And if you have a crawl space, then what do you cover? And then just ramp up your deductible, save you some cash, you know, and hope God doesn't flood it.
Yeah. Right.
But again,
Right.
it's insurance, right? We don't know whether you're
It's
getting-
hazard insurance. It's for hazards.
Right.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
So
I
that
mean,
being said,
I think Dave Chappelle said
What'd he say?
it's in case shit. Is that what he said? The insurance is in case
in
shit
case
happens.
shit happens.
Yeah.
It's in case shit happens, right? So that being said, we talk about, and you just brought up a good point. Like, there's so many different companies out there that offer different policies, and
Yeah.
whether it's a percent, this, that, and the other. So if I'm a buyer and I'm going through the process and I'm getting started on, you know, looking for insurance, what is the difference, pros, cons, advantages, et cetera, of going through, you know, an insurance broker versus one of the big companies that's run by a gecko?
Oh my gosh,
or really
I love
good
that you
hands,
ask
or
this.
khaki shorts, whatever it is. What is the difference? What's the advantage, disadvantage? What are you seeing?
Well, the advantage of going through an independent agent is the fact that they have no allegiance to the companies that they're writing for. They're working for you.
Okay.
So, in other words,
You're gonna find them the best
So there's-
coverage and price.
there you go. So a captive company would be like State Farm, Farmers, USA. But an independent agent, they are looking for the best rate for you and the best fit. So State Farm has their set of underwriting guidelines.
Yep.
They can only insure these types of homes, these types of clients. I'm as an independent, I'm shopping and I'm finding the best rate, the best fit for you.
Okay.
I don't care if it's with Nationwide, with Travelers, with Safeco,
Yeah.
with Allstate. It's who's going to outbid for your business.
Got it.
It's kind of like a lender.
It
correct?
is, and that's
if you
gonna
work
lead me
with
to my
Wells
next question,
Fargo,
so,
Wells
yes.
Fargo, you have set guidelines. This is the interest rate. That's it. It's their product, no more. With a broker, he shops it. Different guidelines, different interest rates, and that's
So
insurance.
one thing is, I'm not in the state of Colorado. I'm not really a broker. I'm an independent agent. A broker charges a fee. So I don't charge a fee in the state of Colorado.
Which is a very
You
important
cannot.
distinction. You can,
Okay.
right.
I cannot charge a fee. So I'm actually called an independent agent.
And
Okay.
to Oscar, to your point before the podcast started, you made the point that essentially, as an independent agent, the fiduciary is to
The client.
right?
100%.
So here's my other question, the only reason I'm going to ask you this because I get this pushback a lot from a lending standpoint when you talk about large lenders and then mortgage brokers, and the big argument always, well, if I need to get something done, a mortgage broker has to third party out their underwriter and their loan processor, and it can be a very discombobulated process. So customer service tends to suffer, so on and so forth. So in your world, as an independent agent, when somebody goes, okay, you know what, that makes sense. They're looking out for me and me alone. I can shop the rates and everything against everybody else because I'm not beholden to anybody. What does that look like from a response time, claims being paid out, a customer service standpoint as
That's a very
an
good point.
independent
It's
agent?
still the same as any other company. I mean, it depends on the company.
Okay.
Same process.
So I am I'm like your personal assistant for insurance.
Awesome.
Right before I came in here today, I had a client that said I need to file a claim.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to go in. I opened the claim for him. He has my personal cell phone. He actually texted me that.
Okay.
I mean, when was the last time you texted
Right.
your agent?
Yeah. Never.
The
I don't
khaki
think
guy?
I've ever texted my khaki guy.
Have you ever texted
Supposedly
the guy
he's up at
khakis?
3 o'clock in the morning,
Yeah.
but I've never texted
Oh my
him,
gosh,
so-
that is what I feel like. Sometimes I had a guy call me the other night who got pulled over, couldn't find his ID cards. I'm like 10:30 at night.
I need
and
a digital copy now.
He's like, I need my ID cards. I will do this one time.
Right?
You are an adult.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Google it. I don't know. I'm sleeping.
So
Yeah.
I think that's a good thing to understand, right? Because there's a lot of information out
Right.
there, and being able to understand that, if it is an independent agent, yeah, there's the ability that you guys can be competitive with anybody, but the process and the care and whatnot's can be dependent on the person, which you should do your due diligence.
But also, if you don't have a home it's harder to insure, it's hard to go just to one company.
Right.
Like,
That one company's not going to insure
Yep.
you.
if they
Right.
can't do it, they can't do it. And then
Right.
you're like, now what do I do?
Yep.
So
Makes sense.
having
You call
someone,
Silk because she will find the company that will insure your house.
And
I-
the transaction will be silky smooth.
Oh my gosh.
Boom.
We got the insurance
Boom.
agent and silky smooth. That's it. Done. See, this is what I do.
What
This
is that?
beautiful.
The
I love
Zohan?
it. I love it. I gotta watch that. I haven't
I'm
seen that
gonna
movie in
use
a very
it.
long time.
I will make the
Oh
process.
man,
silky.
that is awesome. Okay, that's
you
that's
for
good.
that.
Well, thank you for explaining that. That's awesome. I do want to talk really quickly about two topics before we start to wrap up. The first one is I just want to go over one more time, and Silk, you can help me out with this, is the tools that are available for buyers in their home shopping journey.
What are
that
their
we
due
as
diligence?
agents can help them with, can connect them with, and what should they be looking for when they're looking to purchase a home?
Like, tell me what I need to tell my clients.
Oh my gosh.
Besides
This
just
is like the most amazing conversation I've had with realtors. I mean, to know.
It's because of the whiskey.
Oh, is that
guys.
what it is?
the bourbon, and then we're so super cool. I mean,
Okay.
come on.
So
You are rocking with the
I
Metro
do
52 home
think-
team, so
the biggest thing that you can offer is
Uh-huh.
obviously, number one, you have your team that you trust.
okay.
Giving them a point of contact for each step of the process
Mm-hmm.
to where we all know each other, or we can talk to each other if we're comfortable, to try and help the process of buying or selling a home as easy as possible for the client.
Okay.
Because even if we have that ugly conversation, it's rather had up front, right? And
Correct.
say, you know what, that's not going to happen, Oscar. Just move on or do A, B, and C.
Yeah. So
Yes.
if you're like, Silk, I'm going to go show my client this home. Here's the address. What do you think the insurance is going to be like? I will give you the exact amount, pretty much, and I can tell you, hey, this home is going to run your client $6,000 a year because the PC class is a 10.
Well, and at the end of the day,
And
right,
then
we
you
talk
can
about all
go
the
into-
time. The more information you have and you're armed with, the better the process is going to be, regardless of what it is, right? But especially in something as complex as a real estate transaction, the more informed you are as a buyer and as a seller, right? Because this goes both sides. These are the transactions.
Because we get those phone calls.
Mhm.
I mean, it could be an insurance issue.
Right.
Who are they gonna call?
But
They're gonna
Ghostbusters.
call me.
Think
Not
about-
Ghostbusters.
think about it
And
though.
I'm like, hey, Silk, help me out.
Right.
This
Yeah.
is an insurance issue. I don't know what's going on, and I rather rely on the expert than try to give my half-ass
and then
crappy
you
explanation.
don't want to do that either, because
Right.
then they
The
come
liability's
back.
on me.
Yes. So have a good team you trust that can answer these questions, and then it helps your buyer or seller, whatever the case is, make an informed decision on what. I mean, it's one of the biggest investments.
Unless you're buying Ferraris every day.
So
you're gonna spend a lot of
look,
money.
John, you're gonna buy a home where the insurance is $10,000 a year. Is that something you want to commit to? It's probably not going to get any better. I mean, this is like,
Got it.
yeah. Or should we look at another house?
Yep. Makes
Like,
sense.
now you look amazing as that, as their guide. That's
So what are the key points buyers should ask their agents?
their real estate agent and their insurance
Their
agent.
insurance
Insurance
agents.
So they need to know the age of the roof. They want to make sure to take a good look at that seller's disclosure, the home inspection. I don't want to know all the details of a home inspection. Oh my goodness. Because the home inspector, that's what
Yes.
That's
Their
what they're
job
for.
is.
It's their job.
Yep.
nitpick. But you want to make sure that things are updated. You don't want to take someone to a home with
Mhm.
a fuse box or with, aluminum wiring throughout the
Mhm.
house or a super old roof, because they're going to have to pay out of pocket to replace
Sure.
that.
Yep.
If they have replaced the roof, ask the seller's agent for that roof certification.
Mhm.
It's all due diligence stuff on
Yep.
the real estate side.
Already having that, sending it to the insurance agent is, it just keeps that process moving.
And on the policy side, what should they ask for? What are key components that are going to save them money and or coverage?
Perfect. So if they can find what's called like a guaranteed replacement
Mhm.
policy, that's huge. Not many companies do it anymore. I have 2.
Okay.
Okay. Or get an endorsement that'll do up to like another additional 100%. You want to make sure it's a replacement cost policy and that your deductible is not 1%. And if it is 1%, try not to exceed like that
2?
1%.
Are you guys
Okay.
seeing more inflation riders on replacement?
Yes. So the max that some companies can go is like 20%.
Okay.
What about sewer riders? Do you see a lot of those?
So look at you. Yes. That just came about
Clay pipes?
4 years ago, where they will endorse for service line.
Okay.
So I don't know if you guys do this. Do you have a sewer scope? For,
Absolutely.
Every
Yeah.
inspection.
Every
But
inspection.
guess what?
That's a big ticket item.
If
like the
it's-
roof.
if it's a
to
little
$30,000,
iffy,
depending on what's at.
45,000 I've seen.
If it's like, okay, it looks corroded. This tree's 100 years
Yep.
old. It's in the front yard.
There's valleys, there's
Make
cracks.
sure you get a policy that will endorse for service line, because it will cover depends on the company, will cover for that wear and tear, the corrosion, and that tree root.
And that's
Perfect.
huge because in years past,
10,000
insurance, they don't cover your sewer line.
Right.
They just don't,
never
and
did
that's
up
out of
until 4
pocket.
years
Yep,
ago.
exactly.
That's
Right.
why I always say do a sewer scope and know what that sewer line is, because depending on how
Mhm.
deep it is, it's going to cost you a lot of money. If it's at the tap, you're looking minimally 10 grand.
Well, and I think next week that's one of our topics is going to be bringing a home inspector in and having them walk through some of those. So it's a good matchup because now we can butt up this information we're getting from
But
Silk.
it shouldn't deter them. That is not a huge deterrent to buy a home.
No,
Right,
Because
Making sure you're protecting.
Right.
I have companies that will insure the sewer line up to 50,000. So
And that's huge. And that's great because it's always been a buyer's out-of-pocket expense. And not just at the purchase point, but years down the road. In Denver, there's Aurora, older parts of town, you have clay pipes, cast iron, and even on the newer ones, say that the house went in, it's PVC, but when they did the landscaping, they put heavy machinery. Now there's a belly, and it's just, it doesn't matter. It's always a good idea to get that sewer line inspected. And now that you can get it insured, that's massive. That's huge.
It is huge. If there's one thing I can say, even if you currently are in a home and you own a home now, take a look at your policy, just review it. Have someone take a look at it and say,
I did today. I have questions.
uh-oh, I didn't do it.
You're not leaving right after the podcast. I got
I was
questions.
gonna say, we might have to do this outside the podcast.
Yeah,
Oscar's gonna have me for like 45 minutes.
you have to make sure that you're you're insuring your home to value with that endorsement, like you said.
Yep.
Or guaranteed. You want to make sure it's replacement cost. Keep that wind hail deductible low.
Cool.
Do not exceed that 1% if you can avoid it.
Beautiful.
And you can, because there's companies that will
Sweet.
do a flat deductible.
Love it, man.
Like it.
You never knew. See, hopefully we made insurance a little sexy, guys. I don't know.
A little bit.
I think
It
I didn't wear my sexy shirt,
right?
but
I think so. So now comes the point of the podcast. I want to hear. We call them Silk, since you're new. We call them our rock takeaways, right? So you hear the term of moving big rocks versus small rocks. We want a rock takeaway. So what that means is we'll go around the table. And I just want your biggest takeaway of the podcast and what we talked about today. I'll ask Oscar's. I'll give mine.
Oh, don't make me start.
Oh, I'm gonna make this is inauguration.
Okay.
You're up.
So the biggest takeaway
Yes.
was just learning about, well, you guys taught me a little bit about how the process works in real estate.
Okay.
You know, timeline, when insurance, because I had no idea when, some people would call me a week before closing.
Yeah. Right.
How is this even happening? And
I gotta get this done now. Let's go.
Yeah. So it's interesting to learn how your process works.
Awesome.
So,
Perfect.
yeah.
Cool.
And drinking some whiskey.
no, it makes everything
Always.
better.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Oscar?
Biggest takeaway is the PC, the class. I mean,
Man
uninsured.
stole mine. Unbelievable.
Just the fact that your house has a classification, whether it's going to be insured or not.
Yep.
It has sometimes nothing to do with the house and just how many claims have been issued to the house. Because that's huge. I have family in Florida, and like we were saying, some of the insurance companies are like, we're just not going to insure there anymore. You probably shouldn't live there.
Yeah.
So that's huge to know that.
That is happening. There's companies that have totally pulled out of Colorado.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Louisiana.
The fires, right? Because of the fires.
Because of the fires.
Yep.
And you would think, so we're right in their tornado alley. Tornadoes, we have like 45 to 60, I think it said, and they really don't affect as much because they're usually lower class tornadoes and hail. And hail's one of the bigger ones, but the fires where the big thing is, right?
Texas is being the #1 state for hail. We're the second.
Mm-hmm.
And what they're actually, I'm no meteorologist, so take this with a grain of salt, okay? But I was reading this.
You know what? I got AccuWeather.
These are called hot
pretty
takes.
Good.
All right, that's going to be another section.
So they were saying that the fires in California is changing the atmospheric pressure, like all these fires, which is causing more hail. So now we're just double dinged over here in Colorado.
Yeah.
We got more fires, we're getting more hail.
We're getting more Californians.
Man.
I love California.
Oh, but stop. Just stay over there. It's fine. Just
give
for
us a break for a little bit. Let us catch our breath.
Just for a little bit.
You guys are affecting us a lot more than you think.
Right? Yeah, I think my biggest takeaway, and from a consumer standpoint, is when you are shopping for insurance policies, talking to an agent or real estate agent or an insurance agent in a good partnership to understand what the differences are in the policies. And Silk got a great point. It could be $60 a month cheaper, but if your deductible is $10,000 or to the point where you're self-insuring a roof, that may not be the best policy. And now it's a cost-benefit analysis, and being able to have a partnership with somebody that you can reach out to and say, hey, can you give me a second pair of eyes on this? Or send it to us, and we can send it to our contacts.
Absolutely.
And have them take a look
100%.
at it and give you guys an unbiased third-party opinion on if it makes sense. Because, again, biggest investment for most people that they're going to make in their lives.
Or reversed, like we said in the flood insurance. Maybe your deductible needs to be way higher because there's the possibility that happening is, astronomically not going to happen. Why pay $400 a month when you could pay way less and save your money? So it could be both sides of that coin.
Exactly. Awesome.
Knowledge is power.
Knowledge is power. The more you know. Reading Rainbow.
Oh.
One of my favorite shows growing up.
Yeah, this was interesting. I actually learned more about insurance by talking to you guys, and I really just thought about it. I'm like,
You know what's crazy? That's why we do it.
Yep.
We touch on points where like, oh man, I forgot about that. And it brushes us up as well.
So quick shameless plug for everybody that's watching. And once again, we're just going to run through it. So before we do our wrap up in our bourbon review, Oscar Ibarra, what is the best way to get a hold of you? Call, text, email.
Call, text, or email. Charlie, are you all right? Do we have insurance for Charlie?
Yeah, that was you guys just heard a windstorm, and apparently that's weather related.
He almost ate
it. Third most common insurance claim here in Colorado.
OscarTheRealtor.com. OscarTheRealtor.com. Email. My phone number is 720-297-3823.
And Silk, what about you? Best way for people to reach you for any questions?
You can call me, 720-323-4556. or you can text me at that number. It is my cell phone. My email, I would give it to you, but it's like 20 minutes long.
Fair
It's
enough.
silk.mettam@buycoloradoinsurance.com. Holy smokes, who thought of that?
I learned my lesson with that. I made it
yeah,
easy.
that was a
Oscar at
whole-
I wish.
That was a
oscartherealtor.com.
whole alphabet.
Yeah, just call me.
Right?
Call me. Text me.
And then I'm Jameson Amaros, so 720-584-3361, or Jameson, Jamison, at metro5280.com. And again, my name's Jameson. I've got Oscar Ibarra here, Silk Mettam here. And thanks for hanging out with us today, guys. We're going to go ahead and do our bourbon review and not mess it up again. I got this.
And if you didn't get all that, get a hold of Jameson. He has a relationship with Silk, has done business with her. He could vouch for her. Get a hold of him. He'll get a hold
We'll
of
take
her.
care of you guys. That's
Yep.
our whole point.
We'll
right?
take
We
care
wanna
of
make
you,
sure
whatever
that you guys are
needs
taken care of
you have.
however you need.
Correct.
So, cool. All right, so let's take one more sip, guys, and I want to know your thoughts.
All right.
I was just thinking, your name's Jameson. You couldn't have been named a better name for loving.
It was just meant to be.
It was meant to be.
But that's whiskey. It's not.
Oh,
bourbon.
wait, it's not.
It's
Never
Irish
mind.
whiskey.
It's
Okay.
Irish
a little
whiskey.
bit different. Yeah, it's a little
I
bit different.
digress. Okay, sorry.
Make great coffee.
And then I think, actually, I always forget this. So, Charlie,
Oh, Charlie needs a drink.
I think you need to
I
help
will
Charlie.
pour it for him.
Perfect. Charlie's the
Heavy pour.
invisible hand in this video, guys.
There you go.
But,
You're so-
All right, guys. So, what do you think?
Personally, it's a great sipper. I've had a few.
Yeah.
It's we tend to gear towards the higher proof bourbons, and a lot of burn. This one has it's pretty smooth up front, and then it really dies down at the end. Flavor profile, it's not robust. It's an easy
Agreed.
the easy sipper. I didn't get a whole lot of flavors in there. It's peppery, but for the most part, I give it a solid 3.
3 rocks.
3 rocks.
All right.
3 rocks. I'm a little difficult. 3 rocks.
It's true. He wouldn't make an old fashioned out of it.
I'll definitely make an old fashioned out of
Every
this.
time. Every goddamn time.
Every time.
Every goddamn time.
I mean, if we drink a really lousy one, I'm like, I won't even make an old fashioned
Yeah,
out of
he'll
this.
just take it out straight
Yeah,
out.
I'm gonna shoot it, put it in a shoot glass.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
thoughts?
Thoughts. So I'm not a big bourbon drinker. So, and I don't understand when you say that it's fire. Is it supposed to burn on the way down?
All bourbon's gonna burn, but if it
'Cause
keeps
it burns,
burning, that's
and I like that.
that's
Yeah.
heat.
Is that why guys like to drink? It burns all the way down.
It wakes me up.
It
So,
actually
yeah.
is a profile I look in.
Yeah,
With,
agreed.
if my bourbons, if the burn is actually a profile that I look for.
Okay, so it burns.
It burns good.
Yes, in
Okay.
a good way, and I like the way it tastes. I can sip it. I would give it a 2.
2 rocks.
Good.
All right. Perfect.
That's a good bourbon.
Man, it's good. I'm an 80 Laws fan, though. I've gone up to their brewery, and it's fantastic. The one thing I will say, not a ton of complexity in the flavor.
Agreed.
You'd agree, right? You definitely get the sweet tobacco notes. I didn't get a ton outside of that. That being said, I think that's why it makes it a pretty easy sipper,
Right.
right? So you wouldn't need a ton of rocks as far as just quality of, if I'm going to put this up against like our smoke wagon that we had. So I would probably say 4.5 rocks. I think is
Fair.
my rating.
I was
for
going to
this
go
one.
around those
Yeah.
routes, so I didn't want to sound like
Yeah.
a snob. But I
Charlie,
agree.
what do you think? From the gallery. Charlie
Charlie
going
gives a
4 as
4.
well. Perfect. Awesome, guys. Well, hey, cheers one more time.
Cheers. Great
Appreciate you
conversation.
guys
Thank
coming.
for coming
Yeah,
down.
fantastic.
You guys, thank you so much.
Great
for
information.
having me.
Yeah, hopefully
Thank
you
you.
guys got some information that you could use. And again, you got our contact information in the YouTube video. We'll drop that as well. So if you guys have any questions, always remember, like, subscribe, comment. Let us know what you guys want us to talk about, right? There's a lot of information and issues and layers to a real estate transaction. We want to hit on as much as possible that's relevant to you guys. And again, bourbon-wise, if you guys have some suggestions for us as well for the next one, let us know. Otherwise, I believe we will see you guys next week.
Yeah.
So
Call or text.
sign off and cheers, boys and girls.
Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Guys.